What if 4 different AIs just whispered the same bullish secret about XRP and almost nobody's listening? And what if that kind of secret is hiding in plain sight while we're all just doom scrolling? So there I was, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, when the tweet from a guy at least calling himself 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋, lit up my feed, right? He claimed that ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and even Elon's snarky Grok all see XRP storming back in 2025. Right? At first, I kind of laughed, AI price predictions, and that's kind of like letting the weatherman plan your wedding, right? But curiosity is a stubborn cat, and mine had already kind of poked its head out of the window. So I decided to kind of track down those kind of robo forecasts for myself, and the rabbit hole turned out to be, I should say, way deeper than I expected. So picture this: XRP, our favorite misunderstood speedster, has been shadow boxing just below resistance for months, right? Bulls and bears are locked in a kind of noisy tug of war, and every new candle feels like deja vu. Now, you know the vibe, right? Market mood swings bigger than my caffeine crashes. Meanwhile, of course, mainstream analysts, they keep recycling the same cautious scripts. Wait for clarity, dear investors. It kind of felt stale. So why not kind of ask the machines that kind of claim that they can write sonnets, debug code, and maybe plot world domination to kind of weigh in on the crypto chart? First stop then, ChatGPT. Now I framed the question like a late night kind of bar bet. Bro, I say, how high can XRP rip by New Year's Eve 2025? Now the response came back in 3 neat scenarios, almost like, Goldilocks testing porridge. The conservative bowl then, right? $3.80, basically reclaiming the 2018 all-time high. Respectable, but yawn worthy, right? The moderate bowl, well, that's $5 to $6 if Ripple bags juicy partnerships and adoption snowballs. Now we're talking. Then we get to the spicy third bowl. That's $10 to $15, but only if every star aligns. Legal hurdles cleared, ETF ribbons cut, Bitcoin signing, kombucha, and suddenly I'm wide awake, coffee forgotten, and eyes are gleaming like Scrooge McDuck. That's a $20 to $30 billion wow. Now, not wanting to kind of get catfished by a single chatbot, I pinged Gemini next, or as I call it, Google's twin with existential kind of crisis. So Gemini echoed the $5 to $10 band, but added a stern caveat. Only after the SEC drama is wrapped up in a neat bow and ETF magic dust settles. Now, Perplexity chimed in an eerily similar kind of scenario, which is spooky because those two aren't exactly sharing brain cells. Then came Grok, the wild card, built by XAI, the same people who kind of strap flamethrowers to their cars just for fun. Now, Grok kind of shrugs and offers a $1.80 to $5.81. calling $3 to $4.50 the likeliest landing zone. It's kind of like that one friend who won't join the skydiving trip because gravity exists, dude. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cool story, but why should I trust code over common sense? Fair question, right? But let's unpack the engines inside these predictions then, right? All 4 AIs, they flagged 3 dominant catalysts. Number 1 was legal clarity, right? Ripple and the SEC have basically agreed to kind of wave the white flag, pending a judge's rubber stamp, of course. Now that's kind of like pulling the kind of parking brakes off of a Ferrari stuck at red lights. Now, number 2, right, partnerships and adoption, right? Ripple's been gobbling payment corridors the way that Pac-Man chases pellets, from SBI in Japan to Tranglo in Southeast Asia, and, of course, number 3, a potential spot XRP ETF. Now, Bitcoin showed us in 2024 how ETF inflows can explode a price chart faster than popcorn kernels in hot oil. Combine those catalysts with historical spicy post-halving Bitcoin runs, and you kind of get a cocktail for our robot buddies to at least the ones that they're sipping on anyway. Interesting stuff. But before we guzzle the Kool-Aid, reality check. Markets are moody teenagers, right? We could just as easily see sideways chop if regulators backtrack or macro headwinds punch everyone in the gut. Remember the name, right? Number go up is not a business model. Not exactly, right? And so here is the kind of conundrum then, right? Do we trust the silicon or stay married to skepticism? Now, my instinct says cross-reference. So I crack open some old charts, hunted for historical fractals, and scrolled through dusty 2017 Reddit threads. Yeah, the ones with the, ASCII rockets. Now, here's kind of what leapt out. Right, when XRP first hit $3.80, Bitcoin was flirting with $20,000 and Ethereum sat at around $1,400. Fast forward to today, right, Bitcoin has printed new highs post-ETF, and Ether just survived the merge and subsequent staking boom. So if XRP merely plays catch-up, the $3.80 revisit seems less sci-fi and more overdue reunion tour. And the $5 to $6 window, well, that approximates kind of Ethereum's 2024% gain relative to its previous high. Totally plausible if fresh liquidity pours in. The $10 to $15 moonshot then. What would peg XRP's market cap somewhere north of $500 billion, essentially dethroning big tech darlings? Well, doable, maybe, but it would need institutional FOMO on steroids. That could be the ETFs. There's some numbers to chew on as well here, right? Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust saw inflows averaging $180 million daily after ETF approval. If even 10% of that appetite redirects to an XRP ETF, you're staring at billions in weekly bid pressure. Layer in Ripple's on-demand liquidity corridors pushing actual utility volume, and suddenly price isn't just speculation, it's greased by real throughput. No wonder the bots kind of perked up. Now, by the way, if you like geeking out over these kind of data rabbit holes, you need to hop into our free educational Discord. The link's waiting for you in the description. We've got spreadsheets, live chat battles, or at least chart battles, I should say, and the kind of occasional meme so cursed that it would make a JPEG blush. And yes, it's 100% free because education should be as open as the blockchain. Now, here's a quick pit stop at Kraken Pro, right? The exchange that I use when I want low slippage fills and an interface that doesn't look like Windows 95. Now, the Kraken Pro link down below is an affiliate link, which means if you sign up and trade through it, the channel gets a small kickback at no extra cost to yourself, helping me, keep the lights on and the caffeine stocked. Transparency matters, so there it is in plain English. Okay, now this might just shock you, but I am not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Whew, right. Let's get back to the regular scheduled kind of nerd out then. So, legal clarity, right? Picture the SEC settlement landing like the final puzzle piece after years of courtroom Tetris, right? Institutional desks that previously blacklisted XRP for compliance reasons suddenly get green lights. Overnight, you've got pension funds and hedge funds, dipping toes. Liquidity goes from garden hose to fire hydrant. Now that alone, it might shove us into the kind of Gemini perplexity corridor of, $5 to $10, provided the broader market stays risk on. Big if, right? But the ETF angle is the real kind of kingmaker, Remember when gold ETFs debuted in 2004? Gold's market cap doubled within 3 years. Bitcoin pulled a very similar stunt, but on turbo mode. If BlackRock, Fidelity, or ARK drop an XRP ETF ticker on the Nasdaq marquee, then you can almost hear the floodgates creak. Even Grok admitted its lower range would need revisiting and revising if an ETF becomes reality. And yet, there's a villain lurking: macroeconomics. Rising interest rates could drain liquidity, right? A geopolitical curveball could freeze risk appetite overnight. And don't forget the ever-present tech glitch scenario. Right? Crypto exchanges have a history of turning into surprise maintenance mode right when things get spicy. And if that happens during a breakout, momentum stalls faster than my Wi-Fi during thunderstorms. Still, let me tell you a quick story. Back in 2017, I sold half of my XRP stash at 40 cents because I didn't want to be greedy. 2 weeks later, it hit $3. That lesson stung worse than a jalapeno eye rub, and we all know what that's like. Now, the market kind of punishes hesitation almost as much as reckless FOMO. So what matters is having a plan before the volume tsunami actually arrives. Decide your profit targets, plot your exits, and stick to them on at least, like gospel. Stick them on a post-it note if you have to, so that you don't get kind of, hypnotized by the green candles. Another tidbit is AI's, or at least the AI mentioned, was that it didn't kind of have a headline, right? Ripple's acquisition spree, right? They're scooping smaller fintech firms like a kid at a candy store. Each acquisition, it means integration pipelines for XRP liquidity, tiny rivets, I guess, that eventually kind of feed the river overall. But it's boring, slow, unsexy work. Exactly the stuff that fundamentals value loves, right? Kind of like how nobody cared about Amazon's warehouses until one day, 2-day shipping felt like a human right. But let's go ahead and zoom out. Bitcoin just cruised through its post-halving year, armed with ETFs and improved energy narratives. If historical cycles rhyme, the broader alt season usually kind of lags 6 to 9 months later, right? That timeline conveniently kind of overlaps with the expected kind of court sign-off on the Ripple SEO settlement. Coincidence? Maybe, but markets love lining up, multiple catalysts like dominoes. One flick and you kind of get fireworks. Now, I'm not saying sell your kidney for more XRP. I'm saying watch the puzzle pieces, right? If settlement confirmation drops and ETFs kind of shift from rumor to SEC docket, well, you kind of have the thunderclap. Now, if both land while Bitcoin's craving new highs, you should probably strap in. That $5 to $10 corridor morphs from dream to plausible mid-cycle range. And the kind of $10 to $15 fairy tale, well, fairy tales do come true occasionally, right? Provided enough narrative pixie dust and a sprinkle of institutional greed enters the scene. Now, throughout my hunt here, the funniest moment was realizing that every AI concluded with human-like caution. This is not financial advice. Even the machines lawyered up, which kind of made me feel strangely reassured. If Skynet fears lawsuits, maybe we still have some leverage. Now, here's the takeaway that I scribbled in the journal. AI is not a crystal ball, and it's not crystal ball magic, right? But it can, of course, digest libraries of data in milliseconds and surface patterns that our meat brains kind of miss. So ignore it and kind of risk flying blind. Worship it and risk turning into, well, lemons, right? The sweet spot is actually synergy, right? Let the bots widen the lens and apply human context, gut, and a dash of skepticism. Now, before we kind of wrap up, if you're craving more deep dives, at least deep dive banter like this one, you want to pop into that free Discord. We've got channels dedicated to these things like AI tools, ETF rumor tracking, and the wrong way bets, right? Leaderboards that can, we can all have a good laugh at our own blunders. And it's the funniest kind of, asylum on the crypto internet. I promise you that. Meanwhile, of course, I will be testing new trading algos on the Kraken Pro because my inner nerd can't resist low latency order books. Again, the affiliate link down below, clicking it sends a few Satoshis my way, which I promise recycles into the caffeine and better mic quality. So where do I stand after interrogating 4 robo oracles? Well, charts stoned until 2 AM and kind of mainlining espresso. I see XRP coiled like a spring. $3.80 feels like destiny once legal fog clears. $5 to $6 totally feasible on ETF rumors alone. Anything beyond that will ride the kind of twin engines of adoption and institutional FOMO. Could we slap double digits? Well, never say never in crypto. I've seen stranger things than an orange coin hitting 112K. But smart money, keeps a cool head and a plan B. So if 2025 does turn into the year that AI profits get bragging rights, I'll be here popping popcorn in real time with you guys. If they flip, well, at least we'll have some glorious memes for the history books. Either way, knowledge is our edge. So guys, smash that subscribe button if you've enjoyed turning complex headlines into coffee shop conversations, and I'll catch you in the next one.